Hi, I'm Erik Hall, the managing editor of the Telegraph in Alton, Illinois, and a board member for the APSE Foundation. And I'm joined by Dan Alegria, a team lead for the USA Today Network Design Center. He's a member of this year's Diversity Fellowship class. And thanks for joining me, Dan.
Thanks, Erik. Appreciate you having me.
So how did you find out about the APSE Diversity Fellowship and decide to apply?
So kind of a long story short on that one, I was doom scrolling on Twitter or X one night and happened to see that the deadline had been extended for the fellowship and they were still looking for applicants. So I decided to go ahead and put my name in the hat and was very fortunate to get a call that I had been accepted.
How did you find out you'd been accepted, and what did that mean to you?
So George Rojas had reached out to me, and it was funny because I work in design. I'm on deadline pretty much all day long, and I love to procrastinate. So I did not submit my application until probably like the very last minute that it was supposed to be submitted. So I kind of worried that I might have missed the deadline or something. But George reached out. He also was running behind and said, "Hey, we would love to have you." And I was really overjoyed. I was just glad to even just be considered, let alone picked as one of the fellows for class 13.
How's it been getting to know George now that you've gone through Diversity Fellowship weekend and judging? And
George is great. He has been so helpful to the entire group. He carted us all around Nashville, and I've definitely been his navigator on those road trips that we've done to different places, and just a really overall great guy, and just been tremendous to work with.
what was your experience with the Diversity Fellowship weekend in Nashville?
Nashville was great. We all came in kind of nervous, I think, not really knowing the group. But by the end of the trip, we all really had a really nice bond. Everybody had, found something in common with each other. We learned a lot during Diversity Weekend. We had a lot of great experiences, a lot of great speakers. We did a lot of great things, and it was just great to have some new people in our circle.
Yeah. What are some things you learned?
So some of the things I learned, key takeaways I got were, we had some tremendous speakers, like I mentioned. Joe Sullivan, who was the former sports editor at the Boston Globe, came and spoke to us, and he discussed making connection with staffers and basically just communication skills, just when you have such a big group. Chris Thomas, who is with USA Today, who I've spent a lot of this past year working with on a project for Gannett. It was good to see him actually in person, but he's very meticulous with his game plans and coming up with big plans and having all the ideas worked out. So it was really good to kind of get that in front of us, like in a PowerPoint, like what to do when you have a big project. Like, here's this step, and this step, and all the things that you should be on the lookout for. We also had Roxana Scott, who is also from USA Today. She gave a great speech on working in the fast-paced business of news, especially now with everything being digital, and how to adapt to that, and the success they had with the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, and just how they kind of adapted to all the things that came out and the success that USA Today had with that. We also did a few field trips, like I mentioned. We went out to eat a couple times as a group and got to bond. We went to the Nashville Public Library and got to see exhibits on the civil rights movement as well as the women's suffrage movement. And also went to a Nashville Predators hockey game and met with the CEO and a few of the top executives of the team while we were there.
Sounds like you guys had a great weekend there.
Yes, it was jam-packed and very cold.
You mentioned the opportunities to bond with the other members of the Diversity Fellowship class. What were some of the things you guys were able to bond over and make connections?
I think everybody is coming to this experience from different places. We have, like me, I've been in this business for almost 20 years now. We have one person on the group who has lived a whole other career in the Army before getting into journalism. And then we have, another person who is still fairly new to the business, but is like a rising star. So like we just all come from different parts. We've all had different experiences, and just to kind of just exchange ideas and hear some of, the horror stories, but also like, the triumphs as well is just, it was good to kind of touch base and just kind of build those, relationships and build, learn more about everybody's experiences.
Could you tell me some about your journalism career and where you've worked and what you've done and accomplished?
Sure. So I went ahead and I think the statute of limitations is probably passed now, but I kind of snuck into this business through the side door. I started out as a news assistant designing the television books for my local newspaper just 3 months out of high school. So I've been in this business basically in a newsroom environment since I was 18 years old. And before that, I was, in the school newspaper yearbook in high school. But after working in the television department for a couple of years, worked my way up to a design position where I was designing features, business, news. Eventually, it came down to coming into sports. I was basically the when there's an emergency, you break the glass, and Dan will come to your department and come and work for you. So I was happy to go ahead and just go where I was needed. And fortunately, one of those places where I really felt like I took off was in sports. And eventually, I was designing the front pages, helping book the sections, working with writers and editors, making sure that everything landed on time, making sure that deadlines were met. So it was just kind of a whirlwind, just going wherever I needed, but sports always felt like home.
What's some of the work you're most proud of from your career?
Some of the work I'm most proud of is definitely, I would say, during the pandemic, I was a news designer with Gannett, and I was the lead designer for the Detroit Free Press. And there was a lot going on during 2020 with the pandemic and also the election. So it was, some great work that was being done with the newsroom that really still puts 110% into their print product. And it was really fun to be a part of that, and an honor to be a part of that. One of my other great triumphs in this business has been in this past year. Gannett has kind of taken a new approach to their Sunday print sections with something called Project Blueprint, where instead of providing just the regular game stories on the cover of Saturday nights or even Friday nights based on our print deadlines now, gamers, we're giving our readers features, we're giving them stories about the players, about the people in their area. We're using magazine style displays instead of the traditional newspaper layout with like 3 stories. We're really trying to give readers something that they can sink their teeth into. And so far, it has been a very successful project. And we are up to 24 newsrooms who have adopted this new way of thinking for the Sunday product. And I use the term, thinking outside of the box score. And I think that has really kind of just taken off this past year.
How much adaptability have you had to have in your career as design and the print product has changed so much in 20 years?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. I remember designing one paper over, 8 different times throughout the night as we zoned out for different editions. And now I'm designing upwards of 10 papers in one shift and all across the country. So right now I have one in California, and earlier this morning I had one in Illinois. So it's just a different environment. We're still trying to get the news to, our traditional print readers, because we still have a base of people who still rely on the printed product for their news.
Are you focused just on sports, or are you dealing with the whole newspaper?
I'm strictly with sports.
Okay. You talked some about things you're most proud of. How was it to be part of judging this year in Orlando and get to see some of the best work and look at some of the best work from across the country.
Judging was a really great experience. Let me tell you, I read a lot just in my regular job, but I've never had my eyes hurt at the end of a day like I did after judging, and especially because one of the subjects I had was long features, so there was a lot of reading in that category.
What were some of the memorable stories for you?
So there was so much great work. It was really hard to kind of narrow it down to like, a top 10, but like we had some great things. Like there's a story about a girls basketball player who deals with obsessive compulsive disorder and all the ways that she goes about how basketball has kind of made that better for her. We also had a story about like, the Vikings coach Mike Zimmer and how he had to deal with his, wife dying and then also his son committing suicide and kind of bouncing back from that. And then there was like another story. I'm originally from Southern California, from the Los Angeles area, where, sports and entertainment are kind of like intertwined. And there was this great story from the LA Times on the new Chargers coach, Jim Harbaugh. Well, not really new now, he's a year in. But how, Jim Harbaugh was living in an RV park when he first came to the team instead of buying a house. And what inspired that was the 70s show, The Rockford Files. So they had this really great feature about Harbaugh living at this RV park and about why this character played by James Garner back in the 70s kind of inspired him living in this RV park. And then it all goes ahead and circles back to Harbaugh meeting James Garner at a Bears game back when Harbaugh was still a quarterback with the Bears, and just this friendship that built up, and it just all really just came together in like a really nice package. It's not something you would expect in a traditional sports section, but there it was. And we also had like there's a story from The Athletic on golfer Lilia Vu, who she it was about her family's escape from Vietnam on a boat. Just the detail in it, just it was so moving. So there was just so much good stuff. It felt wrong to, go ahead and say, well, this one's not in the top 10, but there was so much, it was really a great experience to read so much great work.
Had you participated in contest judging before?
No, this was my first time doing any kind of judging. I was really glad to be a part of it.
How was the experience of working with a couple other people from the industry there in person in Orlando to pick the top 10?
So because I work for Gannett in the design center, I work remotely with a lot of our editors who are spread all over the country. So this was the first time. One of the lead people in my group was Ed Reed from the Fort Myers News Press and the Naples paper. First time I've ever met him in person. And I've talked to him countless times on the phone or through Teams or in video conferences. So it was great to have like this one-on-one and to be able to, just kind of connect and share ideas on these different stories. And that was fun. A lot of other people like Dan Spears, Roxana Scott, others who I've met over, video chats or emails. It was just great to finally put an actual person instead of seeing somebody in the little square, like we're seeing each other right now.
Yeah. Was there anything you took from the time when you weren't reading away from the contest judging, which I can find to be as beneficial as the time you're actually reading stuff?
Yeah, no, there was some time to actually, for everybody to kind of talk and share ideas and just, get together and mingle. But let me tell you, there was a lot of reading. There were a lot of people sitting at the pool with laptops in front of their faces, just knee deep in stories. And it was just, nobody was really swimming. I'll tell you that.
Is there anything else you want to add about your time so far in the APSE Diversity Fellowship, or what you're looking forward to? As I know there's a few more steps to it, including the conference this summer in Minneapolis. And is there anything else you want to add, Dan?
No, I just think that this has been a really great experience. What I've really gotten from it is the camaraderie, like this past week with the different sports editors from across the country, those who, are from different organizations that we don't really have too much interaction with, and kind of hearing what they're dealing with and what's happening in their newsrooms, and but also the camaraderie that comes with the fellows themselves. We have a really great group this year, and we've all made a point to, kind of learn from each other and kind of connect. And each person brings a talent and experience that's different from the other. So when I look across the table from everybody who is a fellow this year, I just look and see, yeah, I see really bright futures for all of them. So it's really good to be on the ground floor of that.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you. Take care.